from day one of being financially independent, your life may not be amazing. It may not be the dream or the poster picture that you had presented to yourself. God damn it. Hey guys, Matt McKeever here. So as I mentioned in an earlier video that came out today, we're going to be talking about the darker side of financial independence. Yeah, you may be wondering, how can there be any downside to being financially independent retired early? Well, it's not so much truly the dark side or a downside to financial independence, but it is a situation that seems to come up way more often than you expect. It's something that I myself have experienced, and so again, I haven't talked about this a lot on my YouTube channel, but I actually have been financially independent, retired early for a little bit now. I did leave my job as a CPA, a financial controller at a publicly traded pharmaceutical company here in London, Ontario, to be the master of my own domain, to be completely in control of my life. Honestly, it's one of those things, any problem related to financial independence, to retire early, it is one of those good problems. It's a first world problem, absolutely, but it is a problem that a lot of people in the financial independence retire early community do come up against. And the way you can tell this is all you need to do is jump into like any internet forum related to the subject matter, whether it's the Early Retirement Extreme forum, whether it's the Mr. Money Mustache forum, or a subreddit related to financial independence. You're going to find all kinds of people talking about the different struggles that they've experienced once they reach financial independence, once they quit their job, once they retired early. Usually there's really 4 different flavors, at least in my opinion, to these internet forum posts, to these people discussing their financial independence struggles once they've actually hit financial independence. And so specifically there's the everything's amazing, my life's completely changed, I turned everything around, and now everything's perfect the exact way I dreamed about it. That one actually isn't a struggle, that's not a dark side. We're essentially going to ignore that for the purpose of this video. The next one is everything's kind of the same, but I just have more free time. And so this is one where people just they feel a little lost, and they don't even really know where to begin. A third common theme I frequently see is people needing a significant amount of decompression time. And so the way people go about decompressing from the real world, from their previous job, their previous employer, everyone does it differently, but common themes I've seen is, people taking huge Netflix binges, or binging on video games, or taking like round the world trips or significant travel time, as well as people just sleeping a lot. Lots of people talk about how the first month or two, they just slept an inordinate amount of time. All these are acceptable different ways to approach decompressing, but something that a lot of us don't think about until we really get to financial independence is that we might need to decompress, that from day one of being financially independent, your life may not be amazing. It may not be the dream or the poster picture that you had presented to yourself or to those around you in your head about what that was going to look like. It often still takes some time to build out the new life that you want based off of financial independence. It's not just a flip of the switch for most of us. And then finally, there's people that really struggle. They find themselves in truly a dark place mentally. So, what has my experience been like with financial independence, with being retired early? Well, I've definitely sampled all of the above different scenarios at multiple times and multiple different situations. And I think that's something I'm going to continue to experience for a while until I really get into the swing of this financial independence retired early thing. So, why are things sometimes not perfect the moment you reach financial independence? Why were things not perfect for me the moment I reached financial independence? Again, I think there's a multitude of different factors that may be to blame or partially to blame for the feelings that you may have once you reach financial independence. I can't talk to everyone's situation, but I can talk to my situation. And so that's what we're going to talk about now. So essentially for myself, one of the big things that I became aware of very shortly after is kind of this ego side of things. And again, it's a frequent theme you're going to find on all kinds of internet forums about financial independence. So if you want to dive deeper into these topics, definitely go check out Early Retirement Extreme or Mr. Money Mustache. So for myself specifically, I know that essentially my entire adult life, I've either been studying to be a CPA, a chartered accountant, or been a CPA and a chartered accountant. And this is one of kind of the tentpole signs that most people use to kind of gauge, and one of the neat little boxes to put me in when they're trying to slot in, who is Matt McKeever? Oh, he's a CPA, he's an accountant. And you naturally just kind of fall into a default of having a large part of your personal identity being associated frequently with what your job is, with what your source of income is. And so I essentially went from being a CPA to the real estate investor guy, which actually probably did soften the ego blow a bit, because for the last few years as a CPA, people did know I was developing this side hustle, building up this side portfolio of real estate investments. And so when I left my professional career as a CPA, I kind of transitioned into being the real estate guy. But in more recent times, I've started thinking about potentially selling off my entire real estate portfolio and becoming truly passive with my income sources. I've also considered hiring someone full-time to work for me so that they can do all my property management. I've also considered outsourcing and hiring another company to do all my property management. Again, so that I could really be more passive in nature towards how I handle my investments. As stupid as it sounds, it started kind of getting to me. If I'm not the CPA guy, if I'm not the accountant guy, if I'm not the real estate investor guy, who am I? Am I then the YouTube financial independence guy? And if I'm not the YouTube financial independence guy, then what and who am I, and what's really my driving goal and factor? So I think a big problem is, for a lot of us, during our financial independence journey, before we actually reach early retirement, we have this one true massive goal that we can put on a pedestal and really reverse engineer and break out all the different factors and all the different paths and milestones we need to hit in order to accomplish that goal. And once you reach financial independence, the metrics of success completely change once you retire early. And so you're left with this real sense of aimlessness. And before, you were laser focused on reaching financial independence. Which leads me to the next big factor that I think has led to a lot of my personal dissatisfaction is, once I reached financial independence, I really stopped reverse engineering a lot of my goals. And reverse engineering is what got me here in the first place. And so with financial independence, I did this. I started tracking my expenses. I figured out what my monthly expenses need to be, and then need to figure out sources of passive or semi-passive income that could reach that threshold so that I could retire early. And essentially, those sort of goals are really easy to break down into nice, convenient numbers. It's really easy to quantify because you're using dollars as your measuring metric. Whereas once you reach financial independence, you can make a goal to be happy, but something like happiness is extremely more difficult to quantify. It's really a qualitative subject matter, and just, at least from my perspective, extremely difficult to measure and try and take concrete steps to improve. And so essentially I just use that as an excuse to stop reverse engineering my goals, which in essence resulted in a lot less goals. And for a lot of us, to reach financial independence, to retire early at a young age, you need to be a goal-oriented, driven individual. And now everyone's capable of doing that, but you get used to becoming this goal-driven, oriented individual who really takes action to get what they want out of life. And once you reach financial independence, setting those goals, having those concrete steps and milestones no longer exists in the same manner. And so it can be really difficult again for your ego, for your personality to no longer be that really driven, laser-like focused individual. And I know that I definitely struggled with that. So much of my identity was being the CPA and the real estate guy, as well as a very focused, hardworking individual. For the longest time, I had a countdown on my cell phone to when I planned to retire. Spoiler alert, it was originally at the age of 35. I ended up doing it almost 4 years earlier than planned. But I can remember being, 26, 27, pulling out my cell phone and showing people on my cell phone this app I had that was just counting down to when I was going to retire. And what happens once you retire? I no longer have that countdown. It happened. So you're left with kind of this empty sense where you no longer really have that true sense of belonging anymore. And then in addition to all those things, also you reach your perspective, or at least my perspective, changed drastically once I reached financial independence and once I'd had the chance to decompress a bit. And so in effect, my perspective changed where before doing little property management things and little fixes around my rental properties never bothered me on my journey to financial independence. And that's because they were all part of it. They were all part of the greater, bigger goal. But once I reached financial independence, I started viewing them really just as a nuisance, a pain, an obligation. They were no longer actively helping me reach financial independence, but it felt like they were stealing small slivers of my freedom. So I began to really struggle with that and started really having a sense of dissatisfaction towards my real estate investments, towards actively managing my properties. And again, it was something that was this experience was very foreign to me, and again kind of made financial independence seem less palatable, because now I was getting upset because I had to go and like help a tenant that lock themselves out of a unit. Before, that was never an issue, and that's when I had a full-time demanding job. And now that I have all the time in the world, arguably, I get annoyed about these small requests. And that was only due to a change in perspective. And it's simply because I told myself, once I reach financial independence, once I quit my day job, my time is going to be completely my own. And I could do with it whatever I wanted. But I never really reverse engineered that exact outcome, because I ended up jumping into financial independence a bit earlier than I'd planned, almost 4 years to be exact. And so that really resulted in reality not meeting my expectations, which, as we all know, results in dissatisfaction. And finally, talking on that idea of perspective again, I went from a life that was extremely structured, almost 100% structured, where I knew, from 8:30 till 5:30 or 6 for sure I was going to be at my day job. And then often there was overtime hours and weekend hours. And then my different rental property projects, as well as managing those, as well as updating my spreadsheets and my projections and tracking my personal spending. And suddenly with financial independence, a lot of those obligations disappeared overnight, which left me with a very blank slate of a life. Which again, sometimes seeing that completely blank canvas can actually be way more intimidating than one would expect. You would think it gives you all the freedom in the world to do anything, but sometimes it's a lot nicer when someone tells you just to paint a picture of a dog, because you got somewhere to start now, and because realistically your expectations are probably set to a lower standard, because not anything is possible. You just need to do that one thing, where with a completely unstructured lifestyle, anything is possible. But I think also what happened, unfortunately for myself at least, is, as I mentioned, a bunch of these different factors, but a lot of them work together to result in even greater dissatisfaction. So I now had this relatively unstructured blank slate, but I wasn't trying to reverse engineer any of my goals. So what that resulted in was really just like me setting goals on a whim, setting arbitrary goals, not really thinking through and planning how I would execute and achieve them, which resulted in a lot of pipe dreams that never even came close to fruition, which again just results in a lot of dissatisfaction. And it is really a silly way to approach life when I'd spent my entire previous journey structured and planning and aiming towards a goal, and then suddenly I got there and just said, done. That's not actually that satisfying. And for someone like myself at least, it's not something I'm going to be able to do for the next 40 plus years. So, how do I change things? Well, I'm going to change them through baby steps and essentially through reverse engineering. So I started focusing on, okay, I'm financially independent. That was always the goal, and that was supposed to make me super happy. I'm now financially independent, but I'm not super happy. Why is that? So I went back to reverse engineering. What does super happy Matt look like? What sort of lifestyle do I think that guy has? What does he do on his day to day? And how does he spend his time? And what's his priorities? And essentially, it just resulted in both thinking what currently is making me dissatisfied with my financial independence and what could make me more satisfied. So, specifically for myself, I started reverse engineering what I wanted my day-to-day to look like. And one thing I wanted my day-to-day to look like was spend a lot less time answering tenant requests and phone calls from my cell phone. I no longer wanted to cringe when I saw that text coming in. I decided I need to outsource my property management. I wanted to truly try and get my real estate portfolio to a much more truly passive place than what I had currently built it up to. And so in order to do that, I then started figuring out, well, how often am I okay answering the phone? How often do I want to have to deal with day-to-day property management decisions? Am I okay leaving maybe 20% of my current real estate profit on the table because a property manager is never going to truly care as much about my property? They're never going to be truly as efficient with it as the owner, the main stakeholder would be. And not only property management, going forward, I want to start really outsourcing any tasks that I don't enjoy doing, that I know I can hire someone else to do, and I can always still pick up side hustle income or just allocate some of my current passive income towards paying that obligation. And secondly, in addition to reverse engineering and outsourcing a lot of the day-to-day tasks I no longer enjoy, I'm also going to start structuring my life a little bit more. And so another major way I plan to change my current life trajectory is simply by creating more structure again. Now, I don't want the structure of a 9-to-5 job, but I want some structure. I don't want to feel completely rudderless, completely aimless either. And so essentially, again, I worked initially from a point of reverse engineering. What level of social interaction and commitment do I think results in happiness, or ideally the highest amount of happiness for myself? First of all, sidebar here, guys. I have no idea if this video is coming off as super aimless. I hope not. Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks. So, I want to create some structure and define social interaction. So essentially what I did was I figured out who are some of the people I enjoy spending the most time with, but I still don't seem to spend enough time with them even though I'm financially independent. And then I started figuring out, well, what types of social interactions or interactions in general with them results that I really enjoy and I can start increasing the volume of. So essentially, I've now created 4 to 5 personal accountability meetups with different friends or friends of mine, acquaintances, business partners, whatever you want to call them, and we meet or discuss on a weekly basis. This is now giving my Monday a little bit of purpose. Monday morning, I meet up with Jeff Weibel and Dylan, and we sit down and analyze all the sales, new listings, and other real estate data. That's why I'm sitting in front of this big map right now. It's because we just finished Monday's meetup, and now I'm shooting this video for you guys. In addition to that, I'm creating a regular Tuesday phone call with John, who you've seen previously in one of my videos where we discuss our accountability meetups. I'm also meeting up with one of my business partners, Adam Steeper, on a weekly basis just to discuss personal and business goals that each of us are setting for, in his case, his main hustle, and for me, my side hustles. And the list goes on and on of the different people that I am creating these accountability meetups with or that I already have. And in addition to that, I'm going to try and join a few more meetup groups, but very specific ones with specific goals in mind. Man, I'm sorry guys, this feels like a lot of rambling, and it even feels a little self-indulgent. I hope you do get value from this video though. Essentially, all I'm trying to say with this video is, you'd be surprised. A lot of us put financial independence, being retired early, on this giant pedestal, that is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. It will solve all your problems and your life will be perfect the moment you become financially independent. But for most of us, that's not going to be the case. Just like everything else in life, it's going to take some effort. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some reverse engineering to get the optimal results you want. And essentially, I think it's wise, if you can, to kind of map that out and prepare for it well before you reach financial independence. But if you find yourself financially independent and rudderless, you can still correct course as well. You don't have to just drown in your own ennui. You don't have to completely become aimless and question the meaning of life and just sit there and stare into the abyss, waiting for it to stare back. And yeah, so I'm making steps, taking actions, and trying to create a happier, more balanced lifestyle for myself. And thankfully for me, and hopefully for you, the viewers that enjoy these videos, part of that is going to be YouTube. So I am going to start releasing YouTube videos on a much more regular schedule again. I hopefully won't have another unscheduled hiatus ever again in the history of this video channel, but we'll see how that goes. Thanks again, guys, for taking the time to watch this video. I really appreciate it. Thanks for sticking with me as I complained about all my first world problems. Hopefully you got through this video without too many eye rolls. It means a lot that I can just kind of air these problems with the world, and occasionally someone sends me an email or leaves me a comment that's really meaningful and impactful. Hopefully some of you will step up and do it for this video. But until next time, if you haven't subscribed, hit that beautiful subscribe button right there. YouTube wants you to check out this video, and I recommend you check out that video. Thanks again, guys. Remember, making money is a team sport. There's more than enough money out there for us to all make it, but if you're not saving it, what's the point? Until next time, thank you.